Hello, everyone. This is Rose. Today's topic from the Book of Life is it lust or is it love? The jury is still out for deliberations. Let's take a look at this short story from the Book of Life. Benjamin Lee Johnson was raised by his grandparents. He never met his birth parents. His parents were among many rushed to the hospital after their plane crashed in the ocean. Benjamin's mother was 8 months pregnant at the time of the crash. His parents were returning home from London to have their baby in the U.S. Benjamin's grandparents received the heartbreaking phone call within a few hours of his birth. His birth mother made sure the hospital staff was fully aware of the next of kin before she closed her eyes. His grandparents were able to salvage some pictures of his birth parents from their luggage, which was delivered to them from the airlines. Benjamin grew up sheltered from the world. His grandparents sent him to a private school that was located within a gated private community. It was private property. The students' activities and whereabouts were monitored with on-site cameras throughout the private gated property. No student was able to leave the property without a legitimate, approved reason or without an adult escort. Benjamin's grandparents were determined to protect him and themselves from the wiles of public school. They felt they was too old to handle a teenager. Therefore, their only alternative was to make sure that he was sheltered from a fast lifestyle. When Benjamin was in school, he was in church when he wasn't in school. So when Benjamin was not in school, he was in church with his grandparents 5 days a week. Benjamin learned to play the organ and the drums. He was a member of the church band. At the age of 16, Benjamin decided he wanted to become a lawyer as well as a preacher. After graduating from high school, he went to college during the day to become a lawyer, and he went to seminary school 2 nights each week to become a preacher. Benjamin, after he finished school, he combined his 23rd birthday. He was celebrating his 23rd birthday, and he was finally finished with school, and he had 2 degrees to show for all of his accomplishments in school. So he combined his celebration into one. His grandparents rented a hall and invited all his friends from church and school. Benjamin has never had a girlfriend. For this reason, he would avoid conversations with his guy friends about girls. He did not want them to know that he was inexperienced in dating. On occasions, Benjamin will witness couples on campus at college kissing or walking and holding hands. He never touched a woman. He wasn't sure how to kiss. From observing others, at times it looked like some couples was kissing with their mouth open. At other times, it looked like their lips were glued together. Benjamin wasn't sure. He wasn't sure which was a appropriate or which were the correct way to do it, or if he was to ask the girl. He was very confused. Benjamin became junior preacher to the head preacher at his church. Because he had begun to think a lot about women, watching all those couples kiss it publicly, he wanted to know more. So his thoughts was, go off, on and off about women. After all, he was a young man, 23 years old, 2 degrees, junior preacher of his church, working as a lawyer. He wanted to know more. So Benjamin, as a junior preacher at his church, thinking about women, he decided to have a heart-to-heart talk with the senior preacher. Benjamin did not want his thoughts of women to interfere with his duties as a junior preacher. The preacher was very surprised that Benjamin never had a girlfriend or was never taught about the birds and the bees. Benjamin was clueless about intimacy and romance. The preacher, the senior preacher, did not know how to educate a grown man on intimacy. He told Benjamin to find himself a nice, single church girl to marry, and God would teach him the rest. Benjamin, looking up to the senior pastor, said, "Okay, that's the answer." Benjamin did as instructed by his senior pastor. He noticed April appeared to be raised in the same manner as himself. He was familiar with April, so he started paying attention to her. They both attended the same private school. After graduating high school, she went to college to get a degree as a registered nurse. She came to his 23rd birthday celebration solo. Following the instructions of his senior preacher, pastor, Benjamin decided he would ask April to go on a date with him. He took her to a nice restaurant. During dinner, he discussed his need to get married and have a family. He was just straight up front with it. He knew how to be no other way but straight up front. April was grinning from ear to ear during dinner because, see, they was cut from the same cloth. She never had a boyfriend either, and she was so happy that someone approached her, and she was even more happy that it was Benjamin because those two were so much alike, kindred spirits at its best. She couldn't believe someone as handsome as Benjamin was talking to her about marriage. She agrees with everything Benjamin said to her. They both vowed on their first date. They vowed to continue dating for a year, then to marry each other. So they just decided to plan their marriage date. 1 year later, the two was married at their church by the senior preacher. Their wedding reception was held in the banquet hall of the church. Their wedding night was very awkward because neither was experienced. Their lovemaking was clumsy but enjoyable. The intimacy was lacking some substance. There was no foreplay or no outward affection. Very little. outward affection. Benjamin would hold April's hands. He witnessed that in college, so he knew to do that. He would hold April's hands when they were out in public walking. And on occasions, something else he spotted and observed in college, he would kiss her on the lips. He wasn't sure how to kiss her because sometimes it appeared though the people on college was kissing with their mouth open, and other times it was like their lips was glued shut and they was pressing it up against each other. So he went for the latter and decided to kiss his wife on the lips. Mouth closed, of course. They both knew something was missing. They knew that, but did not know how to correct it. April became pregnant after 1 year of marriage. Well, he was doing something right. She gave birth to twins, a girl and a boy. The twins consumed the majority of her time as well as her part-time job, she working as an RN. Benjamin was working for a law firm that kept him busy. The couple appeared to use staying busy as an excuse for their lack in affection towards each other. They both always talked about how tired they were before going to bed. Their sex life became a once a week quickie. The senior preacher was scheduled to have surgery, which meant he would need someone to cover for him for approximately 3 months. The senior pastor asked Benjamin if his schedule would allow him to cover. Benjamin, running from sexual issues at home, agreed to cover. He didn't care what his schedule looked like. He immediately started with having a meeting with the church staff to set up his schedule. The congregation was familiar with Benjamin's preaching style from him stepping in from time to time when the senior pastor took a day off or took a short vacation. The congregation loved Benjamin as a preacher. The offering would go up when he preached, as well as the sanctuary would be packed with people standing as well. Extra chairs had to be placed down each aisle and in the back of the church. The people were hungry for a fresh word, which Benjamin did not fail to deliver each week. Benjamin's private counseling sections with parishioners were always booked up on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Each section was scheduled for 30 minutes in length. Benjamin was good with wrapping up the sections 5 minutes before the next one began, in order to take a short break in between. This one particular Saturday, Benjamin was scheduled to meet with Miss Buffy Chamber at 4:30 p.m. Buffy was his last section for the day and week. She also was running late. She called the church to inform the staff that she would be 10 minutes late. However, she arrived 20 minutes late. Because of her tardiness, the staff was rescheduling her counsel section. Miss Buffy wasn't having it. She pleaded with the staff that it was important she counsel with the pastor today because it was a matter of life and death. Benjamin heard Buffy pleading with the church staff, so he leaves out of his office and he goes to the reception desk and he interjected by letting the staff know that he was willing to stay a few minutes over to counsel with Buffy. He told the staff that he would be okay and that they should leave at their normal time after locking up the church. He informed the staff that he would lock up the office. It was 5 o'clock by the time Benjamin sat down to start his counseling with Buffy. The staff had finished locking up the church and was heading out the door. The office building front door automatically locked behind the staff as they exit the building. So Benjamin asked Buffy what brought her into the office for counseling. Buffy stated she was fighting strong temptations and avoiding intimacy with one of the deacons who had been coming on to her for several months. She tells Pastor Benjamin she had no physical attraction to this particular deacon. However, she was having sexual urges that was controlling her thoughts. Pastor Benjamin asked Buffy if she was married and sexually active. Buffy states to the pastor, she said, "Pastor, I am not married or currently sexually active. However, I was sexually active approximately 2.5 years ago when I was 21 years old, before I broke up with my boyfriend. So my body is definitely missing what I am familiar with. I am now trying to live this holy life without sex, but the deacon keeps whispering in my ear what it is he wants to do to me. I'm trying to avoid him, but every time I turn around, he is in my private space. My body craves what the deacon is saying he is going to do to me. However, I do not want it from him." Miss Buffy, states the pastor, "if you like, I can have a talk with the deacon. Hopefully it will help to ease your cravings by not having him speak sexual fantasies into your ear." Benjamin felt very awkward. He was not skilled in the sex department and wasn't sure what to say to Buffy, but he was doing okay. "Okay, Pastor Benjamin, if you think it will help." Buffy gave Benjamin the deacon's name. Benjamin asked to pray with Buffy before she leaves. Buffy agreed. Benjamin begins to pray while sitting in his seat behind the desk. Buffy interrupts him. "Oh no, Pastor." She interrupts before he can get too deep. Soon as he started praying, she stopped him. No. "Pastor," states Buffy, "can't we stand and hold hands? I would like to make sure God sees we are touching and agreeing in the name of Jesus." They both stood and held hands. After Benjamin finished praying, Buffy gave him a long and hard hug. Benjamin's body began to tingle in places it shouldn't be tingling in. He jumped when he felt his manhood rise. So did Buffy when she felt it rise. Buffy placed her hand on the forbidden as she passionately kissed him. Benjamin was paralyzed. He couldn't move. Although he knew what was taking place was forbidden, he couldn't stop it. The energy that was on him was strong. He couldn't open his mouth to pray it away. he found himself surrendering to its power. Him and Buffy had sex on the floor of the office. Benjamin experienced lovemaking for the first time, or should we call it lust making. It blew his mind. He didn't know sexual intercourse could feel so good. He never had anyone do to his body what Buffy did to him. He found himself engaging in a way that he didn't even know he was capable of knowing what to do. Afterwards, he was silenced. He didn't know what to say. Miss Buffy? Oh, she was good with it. She was like, "Dang, Pastor, I didn't know you had that in you. Look, I'm going to get out of here so you can close up the office. Thanks for seeing me at the last minute. Oh yeah, and thanks for volunteering to talk to the deacon for me. Bye, Pastor. Have a good evening," she shouts as she's leaving the office. Benjamin went to the senior pastor's personal bathroom upstairs in the office building to take a quick shower. He still couldn't wrap it around his mind what had just happened. He was still paralyzed and frozen. That spirit was still on him. So, in fear of bringing attention to himself by using one of the senior pastor's towels, he dried his body with paper towels. He placed the wet paper towels in the kitchen area trash can. Let me tell you something. He fell down, but he was trying to get back up without anybody knowing about it. Benjamin realized he has just experienced the stronghold of sexual temptation. Also, he realized why people who are struggling with certain temptations cannot be around other people who are struggling with the same temptations. He especially realized why pastors do not counsel without staff member being near. They don't have to sit in the office with the pastor, but they need to be outside that door. And why a taste of the forbidden fruit becomes a stronghold. So he now understands that. How easily it can become a stronghold. See, this is stuff that he had knowledge of by studying in seminary school and reading his Bible, but he had no experience with it. So now the pastor is open to the experience of things that he had knowledge of. So he realized a stronghold is on him because he tasted the forbidden fruit, and it was sweet to his taste, and it was pleasing to his flesh. He hasn't stopped thinking about it at all. So he knew he had to do something about it, because instead of feeling shame and guilt, he is finding himself thinking about the pleasure of it all the time. So as he drove home from the church one day, about a week after this took place, he decided that it was time to do something about this. He had to get this off of his spirit and out of his thoughts. So he decided that he was going to take a 3-week sabbatical from counseling in order to fast and pray. Good, smart move, Pastor. He needs to cleanse himself of the spirit that had attached itself to his flesh. His flesh was popping, and the flesh was high and the spirit was low, and he had to switch that around. So after a couple of weeks of fasting from sun up to sundown, which means he only ate one meal after 6 o'clock each day, and he also prayed throughout his fast. So after a couple of weeks of this, Pastor Benjamin was feeling stronger. He had cleansed his spirit. He no longer craves the flesh of Buffy. He felt strong enough to talk with the deacon who had been harassing Buffy with sexual remarks. Also, he made sure his staff was always near during counseling sections. He no longer sent them home and thought he could handle it all by himself. He prayed with staff before starting counseling, and he prayed with them after counseling. He wanted to make sure he was prayed up, he was girdled in the spirit. He was not taking any more chances. He did not want any unwelcome dark spirits latching on to his flesh again. Although he felt forgiven for his sins because he confessed them to God, he repented and he confessed his sins to God, and he turned it around and did not go back to his sins. That's what repent means. And he was confident in his renewed strength. He was very confident now. The sexual experience he learned did not leave him. See, that's the thing. Even though he experienced that and he cleansed himself and he got stronger, that experience did not leave him. It's not going to leave him. But he was stronger not to repeat. He used his experience to bring joy to his marital bed. He brought joy to him and his wife. Him and his wife began to look at each other differently. They both began to show each other a lot of affection. No longer was their sex life a once-a-week quickie. What the enemy meant for evil, God used it for good. Pastor Benjamin and his wife was enjoying each other sexually. Him and his wife fell in love with each other for the first time. What an amazing, confusing way, thought Pastor Benjamin, to learn about intimacy. Click the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Be blessed, everyone, and safe. Peace. Remember to click that thumbs up button.